I should let that be my profile picture. Ah, ah. Oh my God. So, what I need to do. Oh, next time. Hi. Hi. I like to. Next time. Say, hello. Okay. At 6. Lexi, he sent me a request begging me to do it again. Lex! 6 of 6? 6? Or so. Great. Great. All righty. 6:45. 6:45 to 8. Yeah, all right. Oh, very fast. I hope it rains on me. Blessing, favor, and more and more and deserve. It's nice to see at the top. I've worked so hard for, so hard for, and stayed in the game and blessed and blessed. Watching you soar. Oh God, because the man, oh God, please send, please send this. Oh, this is what happens when you troll social media. This is exactly what happens when you troll social media. This is exactly what happens when you troll social media. So it's nice to celebrate my friends and all. That's always a good thing, right? I was actually uh, on Instagram and I saw where one of my friends, Cyrus Webb, somebody whom I have known now for almost as long as I have been on social media. We met on social media and he helped me to promote my books. And it's so nice to see that he has made it, right? He's made it now. He'll be a keynote speaker in Dubai later on this year. And he has his own show. He's been accepted into Hollywood. He's opening an office in Hollywood. It is so nice to see people who deserve it, people who worked hard at it. He stayed in the game, even when the rest of us were like, oh, it ain't working for us. He stayed in the game. And it proves, too, how difficult it is for women to make it. You know, it's much harder for women to make it than men. Don't get me wrong. He probably did all the right things. He probably, probably just had better luck or better connections or whatever, but he stayed in the game. And it's so nice to see him make it. So I just want to say shout out to Cyrus Webb. I am so happy to see him. I'm so happy to see him making it. I celebrate with him. And, it gives you a special feeling on the inside, a heartwarming feeling when you see someone else make it, someone whom you applaud and you've been standing on the sidelines, and then you see them cross the finish line. And you're just standing there like, wow, they made it. So it's nice to see this. So how are you all today? It's Wednesday. It's Holy Week, right? We saw where on just this past Monday where the cathedral at Notre Dame, which is an icon of Christianity. But I just want to say it's more than an icon of Christianity. It's an icon of hope for many people around the world. It celebrates human history. And I think that's the context in which we'll look at it. Now, people have varying opinions because it is a Catholic church. It's a bastion of the Catholic Church, right? And there is an ongoing sex scandal in the Catholic Church. So some people are saying, well, it burned because they had to burn out everything, whatever. At some other point, I will talk about the significance of what happened there, but not today. It's still Holy Week. Tomorrow is Holy Thursday, celebrated all across the world as the day when Jesus' travails began, culminating in Good Friday when he was crucified. And of course, on Easter Sunday, Sunday morning when he rose up. So it is Holy Week. For those of us, we have special traditions. What's your traditions? Do you decorate for Easter? Do the Easter bunny thing? Have Easter egg hunt? Well, here in Michigan, our Easter egg hunt kind of went the way of the weather. The grass is still wet, so we can't exactly run outside and do an Easter egg hunt. So a lot of people are probably doing it indoors. I'm not one of them. I was never big on the egg hunt thing. If you're going to give me candy, just give me my candy. Don't let me hunt for it. That's why I like Halloween, right? I just walk up to your door, knock on the door, and say, trick or treat, and you hand me over all the candy you have. I'm not a hunter for candy. But it's Easter, and Passover was just a few weeks ago. I think this is the first time in about 15 years I didn't celebrate Passover. It passed so quickly, I didn't even realize it. Like, seriously. Like, seriously. Because I'm a Christian and our faith is Judeo-based. So there are some observances that I give to some holidays, if I remember. And Passover, perhaps because it leads up to Easter, is why I observe that. We head into further in the year. This Passover is also a time when, certain things happen, right? So it has some kind of financial connection attached to it. We'll talk about that some other time. So yesterday on our show, we had CoOnHill, who is a former male sex worker. And many of you joined in. He put the show on YouTube, on his YouTube channel. It's gotten over 1,000 views because I asked him to be frank. I'm surprised that you, my audience, didn't jump all over it. But his audience, they went hog wild over it. So they're even asking for a redo. They're saying, come back with a lady, talk about it. And so we're going to have him back, but it's going to be next Thursday evening at between 6 and 7. We're trying to see what works based on everyone's schedules. And I'm changing the time to see if more, because he has very valuable information, not just on HIV prevention, but I think a lot of people, he's a young man, right? He could be my son. He's probably, I don't think he's 28 yet. So at the time when he became a sex worker, he was just in his late teens. And I think for a lot of folks who have children, who have a son or a daughter who might be struggling with their emerging sexual identity or sexual orientation, I think it would be good for them to see that, right? Or listen to the information that he has. Now, let me be clear. Hey, Kiran, morning. How are you? Right? No, let me be clear. People are people. And as much as we have our own beliefs and we believe that people fit into these boxes, life is rarely ever like that. Life doesn't happen like that. People rarely fit into a box. Most people have issues and people grew up different. They have different perspectives and so on. So I can't impose my, how shall I say, my viewpoints, my desires on someone. I kind of allow people to be themselves and express themselves. That's how, right? So even though I want people to be what I think they should be, or what I think is their best practice, or what I think is best for them, it somehow doesn't line up with their own experiences or their own perspectives or their own views of themselves, right? So I just make sure I put that out there, right? So when I met him, we were at a seminar for HIV in the Black male gay community in Detroit, and they were talking about HIV prevention. I was invited to the forum to increase my understanding of the issues that community faced, because I really didn't know. And when a friend of mine suggested it and brought it to my attention, I was actually taken aback. So I went to the seminar to gain an understanding of the specific issues and highlight those that happen to folks who are Black, male, and gay, or who are just Black and gay, period. And I was, like everyone else, I was shocked. Like everybody else, I was heartbroken. Because at the end of the day, we are all human. And at the end of the day, we have to look each other in the face and say, have I done my best for humanity? Have I done what I should have done for humanity? Right? So he's coming back next Thursday. Kiran, it's going to be like I don't know about your time because you're in the UK, so it's going to be late for you, like 11, 12 o'clock at night for you, but it's worth watching. It will be worth watching. He's going to come power pack and bring some more information. Some things emerged from his conversation that were mind blowing and shocking. And while it was, it digressed a little bit, it wasn't what I wanted to necessarily talk about, but the conversation went the way that it did. Okay. So be that as it may, it is what it is. So he's going to put it on his YouTube channel and we'll see how that goes. Right. Right. All right. So next Tuesday morning at 10, the 23rd, I will have E.B. Jordan on our show. She is a woman who was in prison, and she's going to talk about what it felt like for a woman in prison. Recently, I read a story about women in prison who were not given tampons and feminine hygiene products, and how the guards kept those from them. And I started crying because I can't imagine what it would feel like at that time of the month to be without hygiene and to be without the comforts of having feminine hygiene products. So for some time now, this young woman, I met her through Elaine, my partner, has been adamant about getting shelter for women who are coming out of jail, how sometimes they kill themselves because they have no family to come home to. And whoa, it's made me turn and give her a second look. So on Tuesday the 23rd, I'm going to have E.B. Jordan on, and she's going to talk about women in prison and what it feels like to be a woman in prison. It's not, orange is not the new black, trust me. That's a glamorized presentation that rarely reflects the real truth and debacle of women in prison. So we're going to talk about that next Tuesday morning at 10. What you'll find happening is that our show is going to reflect, I'm trying to make it so that it reflects the people whom I want to talk to, the people whom I find interesting. I'm adjusting to accommodate their schedules and their calendars, right? It's good to say, oh, come on at this hour, but I think it accommodates their timing as well. So that's next Tuesday. And then I think the Thursday after that, we're going to have CoOnHill. The month is slipping by so fast. I cannot believe today is the 17th of April. April just started. And I, for one, I'm shocked that today is the 17th of April. It's unbelievable to me. Totally unbelievable. So here we go. It's one of those things where people, it's just one of those things. But anyway, so today I want to talk about the roar of the crowd. And I'm doing it within the context of, if everybody remembers the story of Jesus, right? So on Palm Sunday, what we call Palm Sunday, let's say 7 days, say 7 days, 7 days, right? 7 days. In 7 days, in 7 days, your situation could change. In 7 days, a lot could happen. In 7 days, you could experience a mighty turnaround in your circumstances. 7 days. And in 7 days, Jesus emerged as the triumphant Messiah. Now, check this out. Jesus was preaching, right? And he was a street preacher. Imagine, if you will, what it must have felt like then, right? In today's world, we have social media, we have mainstream media, right? That can broadcast stuff from anywhere in the world. You just need a phone camera and you can upload stuff anywhere, right? You can go to Facebook, you can go to any platform. Well, in Jesus's day, they had word of mouth, which was even just as powerful. And Jesus rode into the city, and when he rode into the city, because of his work he had been doing in other communities across that region, suddenly people knew of him. He had healed the sick, right? Didn't he? He had healed the sick, and he was controversial, wasn't he? Yeah, here's this guy. It's like, let me put it into context for you. You live uptown, I live downtown, right? So I am downtown. I'm from the hood, as they would say here in America, right? So I live in the hood, and here I am stirring up the people in the hood. I am telling them they can live a better life. I'm telling them they don't have to put up with the stuff that comes at them. I'm telling them you can change your life. You can change this, you can change that, right? So the people in Uptown, they're looking like, wait a minute, he's changing our way of life. This dude even has the nerve to go into the synagogue and into the churches where I had my business established. I need these people to feel broken. I need these people to feel dependent on my services. And here's this dude. Who is he? So everybody starts calling everybody and saying, well, who is this guy? We got to get rid of him because he's a damage and a danger to our way of life. He's telling people they don't have to give tithe. He's telling people they don't have to give offering. He's telling people they don't have to do a trespass offering. They don't have to make a sacrifice. And I have my men lined up outside the synagogue every day to sell them, because the priest on the inside is on my side. I pay him off to tell them that their sacrifice is not acceptable. So they have to go out and buy a whole new thing, right? And this man is messing up my business. He's messing up my money. He's messing with my money. Who is this guy? So they said, we got to do something about him. Let me call the council of churches. Let me call the council of bishops. Let me call the council of ministers and see who this person is who is messing up my money. Who is this person who is telling people they don't have to go into a church on a Saturday? They don't have to go into a church on a Sunday. They don't have to do any of that. They can stream on YouTube. They can do that. Who is this person? So Jesus is aware of all this. And he's a cool cat in spite of that. He understands his mission. He stays focused. He knows that this is what he's called to do. In fact, this is what he was sent to do. He delivered his messages anyhow. And he rode in, and they put him on a donkey, broke palms off their trees, because that was the most common tree that was readily available. So it was hanging. So when people start talking about the palm, I'm like, no, there's no significance too much about it. It's just royalty. They couldn't roll out the red carpet. So they didn't have enough. It was a long stretch. So they didn't have enough to roll the red carpet out, right? And they didn't have access to the red carpet because these were the poor people. These were the people who Jesus came to. Jesus doesn't care about the intellectuals. It's not that he doesn't care, but he says by the time they finish intellectualizing everything, it's a done deal. I don't have time for that. They don't need their lives impacted and changed as much as the people whom I need to reach. So Jesus was always speaking to the people. Look at who his audience was. He was always speaking to the people. Say the people, you are the people. You are the people who are called by my name. That's whom he was speaking to. This is why we should read the Bible in its entirety. We should not read the scriptures, within outside of the context, because when you look at it in 2 Chronicles, it says my people who are called by my name. And then over here is Jesus speaking to the same people, speaking to the people. In a lot of ways, it makes me wonder, what is it that mainstream and organized religion today is talking about? Who are they talking to? Because they're not speaking to the people. They're not speaking to my people. They're speaking to somebody else, but they definitely are not speaking to my people. They're not energizing. They're not uplifting. They're not making people feel that somehow you're going to make it before you get to heaven. Somehow you're going to make it through this stuff. You're going to make it because of X, Y, Z. No, they're more interested in delivering an emotional message that gets your emotions all stirred up. And then when this message is over, this is you standing outside. Well, he did say it was going to happen. And you're searching for a word in there that is going to keep you for the next 7 days. Jesus didn't have that problem because he was the word and he was the living word. In him, it was all fulfilled. So he just stood there. He knew they were going to kill him anyway. He knew they were going to crucify him anyway, but he just stood there instead and spoke his truth. Sometimes you just got to speak your truth, irrespective of whatever comes. When I started my public ministry and I started speaking, I determined in my mind that I was going to tell the truth. I was going to speak the truth that I had been exposed to and speak the truth that had come to me, regardless of whomever came at me, regardless of who didn't like it. I knew organized religion was going to have a problem with it, but I felt that God had me and that he would create the opportunities where they shut doors, other doors open. Where they said no, other people said yes. You see where I'm coming from? So even though they tried their very best, I was like, I got to do what I've been called to do. If it is unjust, if it is unfair, if it shouldn't happen, I'm not going to be a party to it. What I probably should have done better was try to figure out the money in it. But for some reason, I didn't pay attention to the money part of it. I was so focused on the mission, I missed the money. Now, a lot of people are out there saying, well, you should have paid attention to the money. I said, well, that's why you're not on my team. That's why you're not a part of me, because you would have focused so much on the money, you would have what? Diluted the message and the power that came with the message. So you would have told me to go say the same things that they're saying, and I would not have effected meaningful change. You see where I'm coming from? In a nutshell, that's who you are called to do. You're called for a specific purpose. Everybody is subject to a calling. There's a calling that only the heart knows that you have to respond to. Based on your calling is how you're going to respond. Well, who called you in the first place? Right? And what is it that you are specifically supposed to do? I see a lot of people doing a lot of stuff. Sometimes I think some of us look at others and they want to do what you do. Let me say it this way. They want to do what you do, but they haven't sacrificed anything for it. They haven't paid a price for it. They look at what you do and they think because you do it, you've been called to do it, so you're equipped with the skills to do it and the forbearance and the endurance, you're doing it. But they want to do it. Sometimes some people listen to the wrong roar in the crowd. They looking at your crowd who roars with you, and they're like, I want it exactly like that. I want to do exactly what he's doing. I want to do exactly what she's doing. And they don't know what comes behind your roar. So everybody wants to replicate and duplicate what you're doing without paying attention to the roar. Do you see where I'm coming from? It happens all the time. And sometimes they say imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. Is it really? And you're looking at them like, because you're like, you have no idea what you set yourself up for. It's amazing and amusing to me when I see people trying to duplicate others, because I'm like, you haven't walked in their shoes. Did you really know what happened to them? Did you know what price they had to pay? You really want to go over there and take that on? Have fun. In a few, you see them all flake out and worn out because you can't take the pressure, right? Which roar were they listening to? There are many roars out there. There are many crowds roaring, but which one are you going to listen to? Look at this. Look at this. So Jesus, the people are roaring, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is he. Blessed is he. Jesus is unbothered. He's unfettered. He's not listening to it. It's not going to motivate him. It's not going to make him say anything less than what he says. It's not going to stop him from doing exactly what he knew he had to finish in those 7 days. 7 days, people. 7 days. Right? Do you see a miraculous turnaround is coming for somebody? I don't know who you are. I would just be glad for that. Right? I'm taking it on for myself. Yes. Right? Do you see what I'm saying? So people sometimes look at you and they don't understand the process that you have gone through. Can I just help you? Let me help you identify the roar of the crowd, right? So you're on your way. You're starting. Many of you who are in my audience, some of you have dropped mixtapes. Some of you are actors, actresses, you're producers, you're directors. You're looking for direction, right? You know that there is a calling from the heart. You are called to be a motivational speaker, an inspiration to many, right? Some of you are called to be writers. Some of you are called to be speakers, right? You're called to be somebody, to influence and affect somebody's life, right? You're called. Accept your call, right? This is it. This is the moment. And this is your call to action. And you hear the roar. But you know what you start doing? You start listening to the roar of the negatives. The people who say it can't be done, shouldn't be done, it won't ever be done. The people who say, why are you doing it? You've already done that. Don't you have a degree? Don't you work as a counselor? There's a woman I know. She's one of my friends on Facebook. She had a master's in counseling. She was working as a counselor, but she had a calling in her heart to start a online Facebook page about women who stayed at home and who cooked, right? That was in her heart to do. You know what her family told her? She said she had it in her heart to become a TV show host. It was in her heart. She knew if she started this online page, she would have made it. She started the page. She worked undercover. I kid you not. You should hear her story. It's a white woman. I love her. She said she started undercover. She used a different name and a different profile picture so the people would know it's her. Guess who supported her? The people in her work, the people at work, the people in her friends group, her parent, her family and friends. They all started supporting without knowing it was her. The day she came out, the day she came out, people stopped. By this time, she had amalgamated enough people around the country to be on her page. Because she set out to do what she had been called to do, she said the roar of the crowd behind her, her family, her husband, her friends, they told her no. Her mother even said, why you want to do this? You have a degree in counseling. What are you going to do? You're going to stop this and you're just going to do that and pursue that? Her mother actually called her and told her it's a negative. Guess what her mother said? Her mother said, it's a waste of time. You're wasting your time. You're pursuing something foolish. This is after she had gotten letters of invitation from the local NBC TV network in her town. Can you believe that? Her mother told her she was foolish and she was ruining her life. I kid you not. They did. She cried. That's how we connected. We connected through a mutual friend on Facebook. And we began inboxing each other because she put up a post one day and I was like, no, girl, you can't quit. And we started talking. And I encouraged her because I've been there, right? I had the same thing. They didn't support me either. My family didn't support me. My mother told me that I was pursuing the wrong thing. I was foolish, but the same thing. And so she went on. She launched her TV show. Yes, she did. Went to New York Fashion Week, went to Fashion Week everywhere else, launched her TV show. She got pregnant. And that's what she got pregnant with her second child. And that effectively canceled that. I swear her husband did it intentionally. Because she was moving so fast. When it started, she began moving so fast. She didn't even know she was pregnant. By the time she figured it out, she was 5 months in. She was so busy, she didn't even see it. And that was it. It killed everything. I still think her husband did it. When she wakes up, she can't face it because then she would be questioning her son's legitimacy or questioning, his arrival. So she can't deal with that. So she has to go along with it. I kid you not. Which roar are you listening to? Do you see how fundamental it is? Right? Had she listened to her family, we would have never heard of her. You would have never seen her. You would have never seen. She has over 1 million folks on her Facebook page. And she amassed nearly 800,000 followers before she came out and told everybody that it was her. And people were busy on there all day, quoting and putting up stuff, not knowing it was her. The minute she came out was the minute they stopped. So I said, well, who were you listening to? I said, who did you listen to? Who influenced you? Do you see what I'm saying? The roar of the crowd influences us. Don't listen to it. Whether they celebrate you or tear you down, don't listen to it. Because look at Jesus. 7 days. They said, blessed is he. The same people 7 days later said what? Crucify him, murder him, kill him, tear him down. This is important for somebody. You're at that next level, that crux. Don't listen to the roar of the crowd. Whether they celebrate you or they tear you down, don't stop. You see me, as for me, how many likes do I get on Facebook? How many likes, if I post a picture or I put up a status, I don't get 7 likes or 2 likes. Do you think I care? I don't. I put it up anyway because that's what I'm called to do. I don't let the roar of the crowd influence me in what I do. Now, somebody else can put up, say the same thing I said, and they get 5,000 likes. Somebody else can do the exact same thing, and everybody's like, whoa, whoa. I don't listen to the roar of the crowd because at the end of the day, it's not going to influence me one way or another. Do you see where I'm coming from? And this is how we need to be. Don't let the roar of the crowd influence you. Don't let it shake you. Some of you have been called to do stuff when you're listening to people. The people in your immediate environment have the most influence on you at this point until you hear this message. And they're telling you, don't do it. They're telling you it can't be done. Don't do it. Don't listen. Do not let the roar of the crowd influence you. Be like Jesus. Be like Jesus. Stay focused. My mission is in front of me. My walk has to be done. I got to complete this course. I got to finish this. Imagine this. I used to be a runner. When I was in high school, yes, I did. And when I was in high school, it was required action for us to participate in physical education. Remember that? It was not an elective. We had to do it. Part of our course, if you will, was what? Participating in athletics. Track and field. Do I look like somebody who wants to run down a track and field? No, but it taught me some valuable life lessons, right? And I'm the kind of runner who picks up momentum. I will start off, but then when the momentum kicks in, I'm like taking off down the, you know what I mean? And I look the same like I look now. So it wasn't like it was significantly any less. I wasn't a skinny kid, right? Or what they traditionally call skinny. So I would look the same. But I learned some things about running. It taught me how to stay focused on the finish line. No, I wasn't asthmatic or had bronchitis. I just did not like it. But because I had to do it, in order to get through it, I would just keep looking at the finish line. And I would talk to myself. I would tell myself, you have to finish at the finish line, because I couldn't run off the course. Otherwise, they would send me back to do it over and over. So I would stand. We're running 200 meters. Imagine that. I run 200 meters. Yes, I did. I also run the 4x100 meters, if you can believe that. Yes, the passing of the baton stuff. And I got mad if they dropped it, because that meant I had to slow down. I was not the best runner. I mean, there were people who were electric fast. I wasn't even a good runner, because there were people who were so much faster than me. I was just doing it to pass the course. But you see, because I couldn't let the roar of the crowd determine whether I finished this race or not, because surely people were laughing, because I didn't want to do it. My whole body language said I did not want to do it, right? So I would just be barely at the back because I didn't want to do it. I wasn't going to get sweaty, and I wasn't going to, because I hated it so much, but I had to do it. So no matter who was back there snickering or laughing, they weren't going to stop me from finishing, because I was determined, I'm not going to do this again. You can't let the roar of the crowd influence you. I've been a public speaker most of my life. One of my jobs when I was in my early 20s was public relations and entertainment director at a large hotel. It was 500 rooms. It was my job as the public relations and entertainment. You notice the entertainment director. So I didn't just have public relations where I had to give up press releases and engage with the public and come up with programs and so on that would bring money into the hotel. I was also the entertainment director, which meant that when I go to work at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the day, I did not leave until 2 a.m. in the morning. Luckily, you're young, so that's why they do it only to young people, right? Part of my job as an entertainment director was to use the microphone, right? So if you look at it, my job prior to that for 4 years was what? I was a speaker. I would speak to large groups of people of 150 to 500 on a weekly basis, sometimes 3-4 times a week. Sometimes I would have to be driven to other locations to speak to people, right? So it prepared me for this, but I still had issues, because one of the first things they did was put me in front of what? In the nightclub. Yes. So the DJ is doing his thing with the turntable. And I had to welcome the people into the nightclub who came there to party and drink. Do you think that was fun? I couldn't let the roar of the crowd influence me, because at the end of the night, they had to sell enough liquor to make sure I keep my job. So I remember standing there, and the guy who was the DJ, he said, listen, don't focus on what they say. Listen to yourself. So what I did, I went into myself and I listened to my voice. I said, I want to know how I sound. I want to hear how the subwoofer sound coming back at me. And I listened to myself and just said, hey, welcome and thank you for coming. Boom! Sales went out the roof that night. So then they wanted me to do it every night. I was like, no, who are you kidding? Like, I'm serious. You can't let the roar of the crowd. Now, if I had listened to it, the sales director hated me because the food and beverage manager hated me because I was showing up how he was slacking up on his job with me just doing my job. He had all the waiters and the servers and the janitorial staff and all the people whom I'm supposed to supervise hated me, right? He had his manager friends across the board on the lateral level hating me. If I had listened to them, she can't do this job. She doesn't have the skills. I spent 4 years traveling around the country, talking to different groups of people, and this dude has the nerve to say that I couldn't do my job. Can you believe it? In today's world, he would have been shut down so fast. But then I was conservative and nice. Okay, is that how you feel? And keep it moving. Today, I would have been like, excuse me, who are you talking to? And I would have, said something else, right? But if I had listened to them, I would have never picked up the phone, the microphone in the nightclub. The nightclub had over 250 people. Can you imagine? So it wasn't like it was a small space, right? It had over 250 people. It was a big nightclub, right? And it was decked out. I mean, they had woofers all over the place. I didn't listen to the roar of the crowd. I just went in there and did my thing. After a while, I became proficient at it. Do you see what I mean? You can't let the roar of the crowd stop you, because I was thinking to myself that I want to keep my job. And if I lose this job, I want to go to another hotel to work in a similar capacity. And even better, I can't. And at the time I lived with an abusive spouse. And I'm like, this is helping me cope with all the stuff that I had to go home to deal with. Do you see where I'm coming from? So you can't let the roar of the crowd influence you. I had all that going on in the back of my mind. That's why sometimes you have to be careful when you interact with people, because you don't know what people are going through. You don't know what they're experiencing. And I kid you not, in so many ways, it helps us to identify the specific areas in our lives that we need to trim and clean up. You can't let other people's opinions influence you on what you've been called to do. If I had listened to those people who were saying she can't do this, she couldn't do it, I would have lost confidence in myself. I wouldn't even be here today. Because the voice of the naysayers are always what? Say it, you know it, louder than the voice of the people who support you. You ever realize sometimes the people who support you, they pull you aside and whisper something good to you? But the voice of the naysayers, those that are not with you, them voices are the loudest. And because they're loud, we listen to them. Sometimes we let the noise overcome what we know to be true. If you've been called to do something, you might be called to be an architect. All your life, you've been fascinated by buildings. You're drawing buildings, whether you're a girl or boy, who cares? The gifts and talents are given without repentance. God didn't care which gender he gave the gift to. He just dropped it on somebody, right? So you are an architect. All your life, you've been drawing buildings. All your life, you've been trying to figure out how to make this building look like this. You have this design in your mind of how a building, you've been drawing it. But other people are telling you it can't be done. Nobody in the family ever done that. Oh, you're going to get to architecture school. You know how much it costs for this, that. You can't let the roar of the crowd influence you. You can't look at your circumstances and let your circumstances intimidate you either. Your circumstances sometimes is the biggest roar ever. Your circumstances are that nobody in your family has ever done it. Nobody in your family can do it. You're the only one who has enough sense to do it. You're the only one who is thinking clearly. You're the only one who is not drugged up, battered up, beaten up, smoked up, drunk up. So you listen to the roar of your circumstances and you let that influence whether or not you can do it. No can do. Don't let it happen. Because the same people who roared to Jesus and said, blessed is he, 7 days later, they were saying what? Crucify him. Sometimes people are telling you, and you have to be careful with the people who tell you, yes, you can. When you know in your heart, this is not what I'm supposed to do. They're pushing you to the edge, pushing you. You got to be careful which crowd you listen to. Be careful which roar you're listening to. It amazes me how now, looking back over my life, the roars that I heard, right? And I am so grateful that the first roars that I heard came from my grandmother and my great aunt, who is now deceased. My grandmother was one of the most influential voices in my life. Thank God for her. That's what I have prayed, that she will live to be long to see the salvation of the Lord in my life, because she was the first roar. She was like, you can do it. You're going to grow up to be a great lady someday. Learn to do this. Learn to do that. This is what people who do this do. She was one of the greatest roars in my, I don't know, God used her mightily. If I had not had that roar with all the stuff that came after, I would have never made it, because I would have listened to the roar of the negatives. It's a good thing that roar was there. That's why Jesus listened. He heard it. He didn't let it record, because he knew that 7 days later they were going to crucify him. But at least he felt some sort of justification, that at least they acknowledged that he did something. If the roar of the crowd on Palm Sunday did anything, was it to acknowledge that Jesus fulfilled his mission. Do you see what I'm saying? If you are on your path, and I'm about to close, if you're on your path and you have something that you need to do, be careful which roar you're listening to, because there are two roars, you know. There are two voices. There's going to be the body of voice that says you can't do it. And then there are going to be those who says never been done, can't be done. I'm telling you, which one are you going to listen to? But don't let it influence you. If you must hear it, if you're going to hear it, focus. Look straight ahead. Be like flint. Stare straight at it, unwavering, determined that you're going to do it anyhow. They told me, I kid you not, which roar was I listening to? In 1997, when I had that dream that I was going to be an author and a speaker, and I saw myself on television and on radio. And I confessed that to someone whom I thought had my best interest at heart. And she literally roared. She laughed. She roared with laughter. She said, no way. She said, your accent stands in the way. You know, one of the first things people tell me nowadays is what? Say it. I love your accent. The same person who said your accent is going to deter people. They won't listen to you. That was her. It's the same way now. The same thing she said wouldn't work for me works in my favor every time. Strikes up conversations with people. Where are you from? I've never been to that region of the world. What happens there? What do you do? And it opens up a whole new conversation. She also said, you don't have the influence to get it done, and no one will read. The influence, really? I won't say anything. You can answer that for yourself. You're a living witness. I kid you not. What if I had listened to her? Because at the time, I was being beaten and battered by my then husband, right? He was beating me into submission to his wicked ways. And guess what? Had I listened to that roar, he roared. She was roaring and laughing. She laughed at me. I would have never written one book. I'd have never published a book. I'd have never opened my mouth to speak. And I have been given the gift of gab. I've been speaking all my life. I kid you not. So I'm asking you, which roar you're going to listen to. I'm asking you, don't let it influence you. If they're roaring negatives, shut the book. Just like that woman in I told you about, who has over 1 million followers on our Facebook page. If they're not listening, keep doing it. It does. What matters is how you finish. Do you have a finish line in front of you? Be like me, standing at the finish line, knowing that I'm going to be winded because I'm not trained. All these other people who can run fast, they work out and they train. Me, I didn't even work out in high school. So I knew that I couldn't run the race the way they did and finish up. But I was determined to finish anyhow. I just looked straight down at the finish line, and all I saw was the ribbon. And I said, I'm going to make it across that finish line, come what may. Be like me. Focus on the finish line. What's your goal? What's your end game? What's your goal here? Focus on that. Look at that. Strategize around it. Draw a line around it. Pray over it. If you have to. Talk to it. Let it talk back to you. but do it anyhow. Don't let the roar of the crowd influence you, because some people are pretend to be with you, but are tearing your back down. Right? Some people pretend that they're on your side. There was a woman in that same group that I'm telling you about in 1997. There was another woman who pretended she was with me, but laughed behind my back. And I thought she was with me. No, she wasn't. No, she wasn't. So you got to be, that's why you can't listen to the roar of the crowd. Don't let it influence you. Pray about it anyhow. Amen? Amen. All right, so we're going to come back tomorrow. We're going to talk about some other stuff. We'll see what happens. But in the meantime, make sure that you are listening to the best roar, the one that comes from that still small voice within. You know that silent voice that says, yes, you can. Why don't you try it this way? You know that small voice that gives you instructions at the time when you least expect it to do. Listen to that roar. How about it? Sometimes the quietest, smallest voice is the one that roars the loudest. You know why we don't have prayers in schools? One little woman got fed up and decided to roar. And in roaring, she killed prayers in school. One little woman with her silent roar. I don't think my kids should have that. And that's what stopped prayers in schools. Just like that. Just like that. Everybody was like, okay. Nobody else opened up their mouth to roar. So I'm going to pray for you. I'm standing with you right now. I'm agreeing with you. Roar. Roar yourself. Why don't you listen to yours? Listen to that still small voice within. That's the best one. Listen to that. Let it guide you. Let it push you. Let it motivate you. Let it be the voice that pushes you to your finish line. And that's what I got to say. I'm out of time. I got to go. It's Wednesday. Stay right there. Make sure that you go to harrietcammock.com as well as go to the exodusfoundation.com and be a blessing to us as we help others to find their roar, right? Find their right roar. Stay tuned. We will be back tomorrow, Thursday. Say Thursday. Tomorrow is Holy Thursday. We're going to be back to talk some more about the issues that matter, the issues that concern all of us. Thanks, everybody. Be blessed. Be blessed, everybody. Hey, thanks for joining. Thank you so much. You're all a blessing. And I pray and wish you all the very best. That you won't listen to the roar of the negatives. That you will, in fact, listen to the roar that matters. The still small voice within that guides you and pushes you and motivates you. Thank you so much for joining. Be blessed, everybody. Hey.